What's up, everybody?
Hi, welcome back to the podcast.
How you doing? I'm Ethan with Fight Me on this.
I'm Jill at CoachJill.April.
Here we are. Hi. How did you guys enjoy last week's subscription episode, our first subscription episode? It was a lot of fun to create. It was a lot of fun to edit. It was a lot of fun to put together. A little bit nerve-wracking, but it's great to see people doing the thing
Yeah.
and taking in more information. And as Jill and I navigate this space of having a subscription offer, of what we can offer you guys is a big deal. So, like Jill said, can you get those forms in, fill them out, and we will continue to provide as much value for your buck as we can.
hmm Yeah. We're excited to have another offer and another way to hang out with you guys, a little more personal way of hanging out. You got a hard and enjoy for this week's episode?
Do I have one yet? No.
My hard is the difference in how we navigate jealousy. And we both get jealous in this life. We've talked about it many times that it's never going to go away. It's never not going to happen. But my emotions show on my face every time. And if you know me, if you're paying attention, I will tell you everything you need to know in the moment. If something bugs me, you'll see it. If something makes me sad, you'll see it. I might attempt to run away, but if you pay attention, it's right there every time. And just having a moment of jealousy come up earlier in the week and having it expressed in a way which was 100% on me, but expressed in a way that I didn't want it to be. With jealousy came judgment, and that's not fair and not me to be judging people. But yeah, it was just a moment of hold on. With one comes the other. There has to be a reason I'm passing judgment, and it's obviously because I'm jealous about something. So it's just not a bad hard, but just a big difference in how we process and how we kind of navigate it. You're far more internal with your processing. Do you want to correct me on that word?
No, I just like people that know me as a being, as a figure, as a whoever will be like, he processes internally. It's
Yeah,
more
and
like,
I guess
I don't.
I'm more specifically with this situation.
So I will say this. So the different, what Jill is alluding to, and without trying to step on toes or offend or insult or bring up shit, is that for jealousy for me is I've made the understanding in my being that it's me.
Mm-hmm.
Something's up with me. And so when, especially the way that we do this life right now, I already have established relationships outside of Jill. And she knows them all, obviously. She hangs with them. Cool, whatever. But Jill's had to navigate jealousy earlier and more often than I have in that way. But when it comes up for me, the difference is instead of it coming out of my mouth, I don't want it to. Not because I want to hide it, but because Jill is excited for, still her first time. We're still newly in this life together. We're still newly gay. There's so many great experiences for her to be having. And so I never want to get in the way with my jealousy because it's not my job. My job's to get out of her way, to let her do a thing. So when I get jealous, I will do my best not to let anybody know it because it's not your problem. It's my problem. I got a deal. So yeah, I get jealous. I get jealous often. I get jealous when she sees women. That's why jealousy has no gender. It's why it's a this thing. It's something in me. And so right there, maybe it's easier for me because it is that common denominator of I'm still jealous and they're female. So it's not because it's a male. It's because I think someone can take anything from me.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes right there. Cool. Oh, it's not because it's a dude. It's because it's a being. So this is a me thing. So then I will do the math inside. So there's no point in alerting people to me being jealous so that they have to put something down or worry, are they doing something wrong? Or worry, is this relationship is it? I don't want you to have to go do that scary ass math when you're doing something new already. I'm a big boy. I can deal. I don't need to alert you to that stuff. And if I couldn't deal, as I've told Jill many times, I then would alert her that, hey, I've been trying to process this thing in my own jealousy and I'm having a really hard time with it. Could you sit with me with this and let me talk it out with you? I would bring it to Jill. But until that happens, like, no, I want her to go out and go out, experience these things, go out and meet great human beings, do the thing. I don't ever want to get in the way of that. So my process is to not, unless I had to. And Jill will now describe why that's so fucking annoying for her.
Yeah.
Did I get everything?
Yeah. It's just like the difference in that makes me feel like I'm the only one that gets jealous sometimes. Like he can take it, process it, come to a conclusion, move on. My process of coming to a conclusion contains more emotions and more outward. Like it's either an emotion or judgment, I've noticed.
True
So
White Park.
in those moments though, I'm like, oh my god, I'm the only one who's ever jealous, and Ethan just lives life and nothing's ever hard and everything's great, which we've had the conversation and that's not true. But when you don't, and it's not his job to show me that to make me feel better about being jealous, but when you don't see it happen, my brain goes, I'm the only one who's jealous, aka I'm bad at this. So the hard is getting my brain out of that thought process of like, just because you're jealous means you're bad at this, and like not correlating the two together. And I think becoming more neutral about the jealousy is maybe the direction I would like to head. Less of like, this isn't.
My value gets fucked up because I am jealous. It's not.
Yeah.
That's jealousy's goal, by the way. For jealousy to win, it has to make you think you have less value.
Yeah. Like
because of the thing.
I'm like, great, I'm jealous, which means I'm terrible as a human.
Yeah. And this conversation, because I think that if you're safe to share, I'd like you to actually like go deeper into how that makes you feel, because I think it's really important in this moment to be like what does it do to you? Because it's not about this life. It's about the life you lived before this.
Yeah,
This is about personal work. This is self-awareness. This is why we hammer like, you don't just get to do this life. This life will spit you out. You have to be ready to see. I said it last episode before the free side. You have to be ready to see every ugly version of yourself, because it will get shown to you. We all have them.
Yeah.
Jealousy being one of the big ones.
There was a thread the other day, which basically sums it up. It said, kids who grew up academically gifted. If you didn't know, I went to a school for the gifted. It's probably called something different now, I don't think. It's probably like academically inclined or some shit, but when I was in it, it was school for the gifted. Had to IQ test to go into kindergarten, whole thing. I had to do research projects every year, starting in kindergarten.
Tough.
What? One year I did it on seal hunting, and my teacher got really mad at me. Not my fault. You could do it on literally anything. But anywho, that's the school I went to. So, like, I literally had pictures of like little baby seals just clubbed, and my teacher was like,
"That's where my brain went." Just little Joe with dead seals in this project, being like, "We would have been friends our whole life."
I was like, "This is a problem." In case anyone did, I'm like 7, being like, "Do we know this is a problem?" Everyone else did on like fucking butterflies. I'm like, seal hunting. We should stop doing this.
Meanwhile, I'm over here writing like full epic novels for my essays and quizzes because I want to paint. Don't put TISM in a 3-hour window of describe me. Like, no.
Did learned math.
Tangent time.
Learned French from kindergarten to grade 10, and then I stopped taking it in high school because what I learned in high school was what I learned in grade 1. So welcome to my elementary school. But it said kids who grew up academically gifted.
You speak French.
Not anymore.
Okay. Because that was English that tried to come out of you just there, not so hotly.
Yeah, no French. I know enough, but
yeah, that tongue do some cool shit.
Kids who grew up academically gifted are now anxious adults who have thousands of abandoned hobbies and spiral into self-hate whenever they make a basic mistake. Mm-hmm. Or they are doctors. There's no in between. I am not a doctor.
Or they made it. Or they made it all the way there.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor. Everybody I went to elementary with is either like engineers, doctors, master's degrees, blah, blah, blah.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah, there's no in between. But I've always been this way. Like, I wasn't allowed to mess up. Whoever decided to put that in my brain, there's probably a few people. I was less smart than everyone I went to elementary with. I was less smart than my sister. Um, so like now when I do anything that could be perceived as negative, my brain goes straight to like, you suck as a human. It could be anything. We've talked about like if I mess up cooking food,
Mm-hmm.
terrible human. If I get jealous, terrible human. If I like hit a landmine of Ethan's, I'm the worst. Like it just like 0 to 100. So um yeah, it's less about the being jealous and more about where my brain goes with that, and then couple that with Ethan processing a little bit more internally. I have the double whammy of like you're the only one who gets jealous and that makes you a bad person. So
Mm-hmm.
we're working on it.
Yeah, yeah, all the time.
But that is my heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I can see and have witnessed how frustrating it is to have to navigate that weird hard. Yeah, my hard this week, lots of weeks, but like this week in particular, is when people challenge me on lived experience or knowledge, like lived knowledge, like about my story or you know what I mean, that lived experience. Um, Someone on the weekend asked me a question about my journey as a trainer. Excuse me, and I mentioned something about good life and working for that shit, um, and how the trainers don't get paid. When I was there, the trainers didn't get paid to be on the floor working. You had to work 3 hours to get paid for one. They charged out the ass prices for what they offered their people, and their trainers saw a shit percentage for a cut. Just gouging people. They're a fucking terrible company. Anyways, somebody, I mean that. Fuck
No,
them.
I just think of when I graduated from Nate and Good Life called me to interview me and they were like, yeah, we charge $80 an hour for personal training and you make 26 of it.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm good.
yeah,
So this is your PSA. If you have a trainer at Good Life, they're not making shit.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's and like things have changed, and Good Life got sued by a union of trainers because of that practice. Like I saw a paycheck later for made up hours and shit because of how bad their fucking practices were. So I don't know what changed, but they're still a shit place, anyways. Um, just was lived experience was there, but put the Clearview and installed it, the fucking big gym over there. And this person challenged me, saying, trying to be like, no, the trainers totally got paid. I'm like, no, motherfucker, they didn't. I just told you I was there. And then they tried to question me. Oh, which location did you do then? When were you there? What year were you this? And I was like, I answered what location I put in, and then I had enough. And so I snapped at them a little bit, and I was like, listen, blank, stop fucking challenging me on the thing that you asked me about with my lived fucking experience. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You asked me a question, then you're gonna tell me I'm wrong with the thing that I'm fucking telling you I was there for? You weren't there. I would fucking remember. So shut your fucking cock holster. That shit drives me fucking mental. As you can see. So my heart is just a piss off. A genuine annoyance with fucking assholes. Like, what the fuck are you asking people questions for if you don't believe them enough to challenge them on something you weren't there for that they lived through?
yeah, if you already knew the answer, why'd you
People do
ask the
this with my
question?
fucking trauma all the time. It's a much shorter fuse on those ones, though. Yeah, that was my heart.
Yeah,
I've had a
no,
good week though. Like I mean, I got a good week.
it
That's
was
why
a
the
good
heart
week.
was hard to find.
But I also think that's a hard that like everyone experiences in their own way. Like it's when people ask me questions about coaching or nutrition and then they're like, well, I actually read this. I'm like, then why'd you ask me? If you already had an answer that you wanted to believe,
Like I'm not here to
why'd you ask
confirm your
me about it?
bias. You asked me the fucking question.
And it can be the dumbest shit. Like people
Mm-hmm.
are like, how much vitamin D should I take? And I'm like, between 3,000 and 5,000 IUs. You're welcome for that free piece of information.
That'll be
And they're
50
like,
bucks.
well, the bottle says 1,000. I'm like, all right, then listen to the bottle then. I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah.
And
You're listening to a bottle over the professional, which is
small
weird.
tangent, the bottle is properly dosed so that no matter who takes it, there will be no issues ever when you're using a supplement to treat a symptom. You need more than the bottle.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Moving on.
Moving on to your joy, though.
Oh, I don't think I've told you this yet. Um, we got to model on the weekend. I was there for one of the days and a bit. Ethan was there for like
12 hours.
too many hours. um, and if you didn't know, Ethan is the model. I tag along. I get to come. He asks me to join. It's a good time. It was terrifying. It still is always terrifying. But I had somebody reach out because I posted on my stories being like, is this like shit you guys want to see? Like, it's less about coaching, more just about me. But like, I have so many pictures from those shoots and it feels weird to do
Nothing
nothing
with them.
with them. Like, some are not PG. You will not see them on Instagram, but a lot of them are just like really good pictures.
She's
Uh,
fucking gorgeous if you didn't know.
So I put up a poll asking like if people would care. Overwhelmingly, people were like, "Yes, please post the pictures." But I had one of the models that we've worked with reach out. Does the leather stuff?
Gigi.
Yeah. Um, one of the models we worked with who like actually models and in my brain is a real model, replied to my story and was like, yeah, you need to keep doing photo shoots like this. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I didn't believe when I worked with you that it was your like some of your first times doing it. And she was like, I'm gonna need you to like go out there and do more of that. And it was just like a weird
Confirmation.
confirmation of like, oh, I always like loop Ethan as a real model and like all the other people that show up to the photo shoots as actual models, and then I'm like, I'm just here. But to have somebody that I view as an actual model be like, yeah, you need to do more of this, I was like, well, maybe I should do something with that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it's like doing more on my own or just like being more willing to do it with you. But yeah, just a nice little confirmation of like, yeah, you know what you're doing more than your brain lets you believe.
Mm-hmm.
What's your joy?
Modeling. I really love it. I love what I get to do. I love working with new people. Um, I love getting to create and collab and be a part of the wild ideas. But more importantly, and I think I know the most important thing for me is to be who I am in this world, in this industry, to be a safe space for people to get to express themselves, to get to be in a space and exist as they choose to be. Yeah, like this weekend was 12 hours of modeling for me. Um, I got to work with five, six,
I was going to say
seven,
6 or 7.
7 different models over the course of 2 days, in varying and various sets and various amounts of closeness and intimacy. Um, I got to make a new connection with someone that has never worked with a male in this capacity before, and we put out a fucking wild set together. But it like there's just the whole experience. There's always growth for me as a human, as a model, as a being, as a dom, as a person that holds space, as so many things. But then to share that with people freely and openly, just because I said yes one time to walk in on the runway, and here I am shooting boudoir, shooting spicy sets, getting to still walk the runway from time to time, and get to just share my story in more places and in more ways. And yeah, it's always a fucking great time.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely love what I get to do as a model. Um, and working with a new photographer, also a version of affirmation and confirmation, was like, you need to figure out how to put yourself out there, because you have a talent that very few males in this industry have. The way that we shoot, the way that you react with these various different beings, like you need to make money doing this somehow. So again, to continue to be confirmed that I'm going to go in the right direction with these things, and just lean into saying yes to the things that scare me. That's no matter how much fun I have. Like before the first flick of the camera, it's fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It just always is until it's not.
Yeah, I think it's neat even with like I we share often in this life, but it's always even cool to I always watch people check in with me, not verbally, but like they'll have a moment of like, is Jill gonna kill me? And I'm like, listen, I'm pretty good at sharing. But like that's also a completely different setting in my brain of like this is a professional setting, you're doing a job, you're creating a vision, you're working on a project, whatever, however you want to word it. But it's always just like neat to watch you hold the space and help them create and watch people settle in to the safe space. They shit their pants first, and then you watch them eventually be like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm safe here."
Yeah, it's fun to, like one of my big questions is always, what are your boundaries to touch? What are your, how are you feeling in the moment? How do you want to create the scene? And, obviously there's some tension, there's apprehension, there's lots of things, anxiety, there's things to work through even with professional models. And then there's always a moment, usually in a look, 5 minutes into the set where the connection's finally solidified itself. The energy's kind of matched between the two of us, and then there's nobody else there. Then it's just, and those moments I think are some of my favorites because I get to experience them really quickly as they happen because I'm working now. But then to look back on them and then see the moment in the camera, like there's moments where you can tell we're posing, and then two shots later you can tell that there's no camera there for us anymore. That we're just moving through experiencing the space with each other and what we're trying to create, the looks we're going for and the feeling we're trying to give off through the pictures. And yeah, to see them come through is it's a fucking great time. It's so much fun.
Yeah, we had a couple questions come in on the kink-ish side of our life. They relate to each other. First one. uh, you and Ethan have a sexual dom sub relationship, or your entire relationship dynamic is based around it. I read it exactly how it was asked, how it was written.
I understand that. I had to hear it a couple times. I understand the question. Whoever asked this, I'm gonna rephrase this for you the way that I heard it because it clearly took me a second. Whoever asked this, or whoever's asked this, is asking if Jill and I only practice kink and BDSM in the bedroom behind closed doors, or if we're kind of live the life 24/7.
Yeah, we have to translate that in our brains because we use different language, which is fine because we live this life. But for somebody who doesn't, like that's a very like basic way to ask, is this only a bedroom thing for you guys, or is this more than that?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it is just in the bedroom.
Yeah. Some people only like it's that even in just there's nothing about this life that gets them going outside of the bedroom. It's just there. It's just an experience. There's a certain amount of time it's on. There's a certain amount of time it ends.
Yeah, it could be anything. Like there's so many different dynamics which we've talked about, but even
when that version of that for Jill and I is when we talk about the scenes that we craft and play in together. When we go to the dungeon, that is our version of in the bedroom behind closed doors because we are in fact behind closed doors for those moments for that time period. Eventually that does end, but the energy, the connection, the relationship itself doesn't end when the door opens. It just shifts and looks a little bit different. Less nudity, same aggression.
Yeah, where for lots of people and for a lot of I think most common like for professionals that have a kink side or a dom sub side, like a lot of it is only behind closed doors. They either pay for a service or have a dominant or submissive, whichever way, that they go and see behind closed doors, and once they leave, that part of their life is gone. They're just regular human.
Yeah, 24/7 looks a little bit different for everybody. Like Jill and I would say that we are 24/7, but obviously Jill does not wear a collar. Jill does not wear any signifying things like with my initials.
My brain went to yet, and I said, okay. If you want to know a boundary that has also shifted with me is like I was like hard. I don't understand colors. I don't get it. Why? And the fact that my brain just went yes is interesting.
And again, like it. You're so funny. I don't even know what I was saying because of that.
I don't wear a collar.
Yes, I know you don't. Out in public 24/7. Yeah, so like there's no. If you walked by us in public, unless you heard us talking, you wouldn't know that Jill is my submissive.
You would still have to be in the lifestyle to
to
catch
pick
our
up on it because
language.
of the way that we interact, the way the energy we give off, the way we poke each other, prod, like it. There's no such thing as like 22-5.
Yeah.
We are in fact.
And a
Uh,
lot of our language flies under the radar. Like I call Ethan sir to a regular naked eye
it
in
might be
public.
weird, but it also is like, yeah,
In
okay.
public, being like, "Excuse me, sir." Like most people wouldn't bat an eye at that.
But like to me, she's trying to get my attention.
Yeah.
You're funny. Um, you're funny. So yeah, like we 24/7 is kind of an overarching, like it exists outside the bedroom for us. It flows through the energy that we share together with looks, conversation, body language, whether we're in public or not. Jill is my submissive, my brat, every day until she decides, if she ever decides she doesn't want to be. Um, yeah. So in that question, yeah, Jill and I uh, are in fact 24/7 dominant, submissive. We live this life. What does it look like? This.
Sometimes it's a little more extreme than others.
Yeah. Sometimes you see her foot go by the camera, and she's over there.
Sometimes you have to pay a little more attention, but it's always there.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my like favorite games is seeing who clocks it. There's a lot of people we play in front of that like it's right over their head, and that's fine. It's not a judgment thing. It's just like we are also observing of like, oh, did you catch on to that?
Yeah, we had a
Did
new
you
person
not?
in the house yesterday, and Jill picked a verbal argument with me real quick. And Jill said something to me on that couch. I said something back. Jill made a decision to push my buttons again, and then I made my actual comment at little one. And the person that was in our house had red cheeks and instant blush, and like someone that didn't know that about us.
Someone that, but like still someone that can pick up on the
That it
energy.
does,
There's lots of
yeah.
people that would have just been like, anyways, and continued on with the conversation.
But like that, when someone looks and goes, "Ooh, she's in trouble," so they have some understanding of what energy is being tossed between Jill and I. And
Yeah.
those moments are always funny when more than one person reacts to what gets said or done between Jill and I. So I was like, oh, they get it a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of that dynamic of us
Oh,
flies
yeah,
under the radar for a lot of people. And it's, I think, one of my favorite things. I love when people see it. I love when we get to play and nobody clocks it. It's also like everybody's looks different. Some people are far more
authoritarian with
upfront.
it. Some people are more direct with it. Some
People are
people.
more visual with it. Some people want to wear a collar. Some people want
The
it to be
dynamics are
known.
different, right? Like we've talked about this a few times. Like not everybody's a brat. There are service submissives that. One of the weirdest things about my mentorship was the first time I was served by my mentor's service submissive, which was like early on, like day 2. He had brought me a drink, and the way he served it to me was I showed it to you. I'm like, it was very like butler, very proper, very like it didn't touch the rim of my glass, had the hand on the bottom, didn't touch where I was going to touch the glass myself. Like a 2-inch rule or something from the top where my lips couldn't touch, so it was always clean, and didn't address me. Stood there, head down, with the glass out. And initially, I didn't clock them, and they just stayed and stayed and stayed until I was like, oh, thank you. And nothing was said. They just bowed out. And then their owner said, good boy. And I heard a giggle come from the kitchen. Like that looks way different than what we have, but it's still everything. It's such a cool part of this life. I think there's so much in it for every person that it'll always look different depending on what you're looking at and what their agreements on, what their rules, what their boundaries are. Um,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it plays into everything. Like as much as I like making you breakfast and like making you coffee, like there's still always a piece of my brain that like does it for both versions of you. But like that's not part of our agreement of like you have to. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like I will choose to do it when I want to do it. Um yeah, like to our cores, we say this all the time. Like I am a brat. It comes out in my attitude. It comes out in the way I operate day to day. It's just like I don't need everyone to do something about it. Lots of people catch my attitude. Ethan's job is to do something about my attitude.
Do love doing something about that attitude.
But yeah, I don't need that from everyone, but like it is part of my personality. It's like it plays in everything. It's why I can run a business. It's why I can do all the other things I do in this life. It's just like shifts when it's between you and me versus in the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the more she flexes her brat here, the more it comes out the rest of the world. Not the brat, but the other
It's actually
side of it.
kind of beneficial to come out in the rest of the
Like it
world.
is, but
Like,
it's also like it's less about being the brat. It's more about stepping into the confidence. Like the more Jill learns how much she can push me, and like not just how much I can take, like how much I allow her to push and step into. Look, in this life, we work on shit outside of the fact that she's a brat. Jill and I have a communication issue where I get defensive that I have to work on, and Jill doesn't give context. So, like in moments where we're working on something together, and Jill gives me attitude, but like with great manners. She uses all the appropriate. You know what I mean? Like it's. I'll let her push a little bit further because she's also doing the thing that we talked about in another way. And so there's growth and learning and healing and work being done on multiple levels as we do this. And then after this ends, I can hear the same level of confidence, the same level of directness, the same level of out in the real world when she's in her business meetings, when she's doing these things, when she's out, just functioning as a human being. So it's not just about what she can push in here with me. Like this comes out in the being outside of this. This is not just with Jill. This is with everybody that does this life and understands what this life and this lifestyle can be.
yeah, I also think like not to go on a complete tangent, but
Do it.
like as females we're told to just like sit down, shut up, be quiet. I've said this rant before. That's the opposite of being a brat. I don't sit down, shut up, or be quiet. Um,
Ever.
unless he makes me.
Always.
Um,
Eventually, anyways.
but the like defiance in the sit down, shut up, be quiet is actually really beneficial as a female in this world. Like I'm not going to do those things. I'm not going to make you comfortable. I'm not going to let you walk over me. But like
And that's Jill's
as
process, by the way. That's a brat's process. That's not for everybody. That's not what she's saying.
no, but like for me personally, like being able to take where I can push and where I can play with him asserts confidence in the rest of my life. Like being able
Mm-hmm.
to be like, "Oh, I don't have to just be quiet and perfect and behave." Means I can go get shit done out there also.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be the low quiet female that's just supposed to go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah, and like also to this question as well, like yeah, while Jill and I do live 24/7, it's also tough for me to live 24/7 with people that aren't in this house all the time or at all. Like to say that me and another one of my partners would be 24/7 would be a tough measure because they aren't around. Yeah, when we're together, we play every time. But does that make us 24/7? Not in my eyes. The label looks a little bit different. There's not, it's not just that it's in the bedroom. We go back and forth all the time when we are together. So just yeah, like labels are important to some. They don't mean a ton to everybody, but it's also important, I think, for you guys to understand the differences and the nuances between individual relationships as we here in the world, accepted vernacular changes so often. So to have a baseline guide of what's being said in front of you or what's being talked about in your circles, at least to give you something to go off of. What are these people talking about? What can you learn from this conversation, contribute to the conversation, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, and I think like the more you know, it's just like cool to pick up on things. Like if your friends have a pet name or like a nickname, if we want to go the vanilla version for it, for each other, where you're like, that's interesting. There might be something else going on. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
that is where my brain goes of just like clocking who pays attention, clocking who does live this life. A lot of us fly under the radar. You wouldn't know by looking at us, but like we'll tell you. You just got to know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think like I've had this conversation many times, especially with females, that like being able to pull those things out of the bedroom and out of just it being a sexual thing is cool because like you are that way for a reason. There's a lot you can learn in that space. There's a lot you can take and go apply to your life in that space when you stop restricting it to just behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, you just want to jump into question number two?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got another question through the anonymous box, and something similar to how we get to do this life as dominant submissive is how do we do this life safely, sorry, in regards to sexual health and safety.
Yeah, just how we navigate having multiple partners, multiple people, which is an important question. And if you aren't having that conversation, no matter how you're living your life, you should probably start having it.
Mm-hmm.
More people involved means more risk, and that doesn't need to be scary. It just means like you
You
gotta
need
stay
to
on
be
top of it.
responsible. Fuck.
Yeah, like we're all adults. It's always been a weird thing. If I
Yeah,
remember, like even in high school, I never understood why we were hiding that we are going to get tested. I understand it's because teenagers are assholes, and if you're going to get
mm-hmm.
tested, people assume you
It's because
have
you have something,
something, and
yeah.
then there's stigma. Blah, 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 blah.
And like to that point, before we get too far, the vernacular dirty or clean's got to go
Mm-hmm.
right the fuck away. Like this is, yeah, it's a part of the fucking problem in this life, and in life in general, is people good or bad, dirty, gross, clean. Like fuck off. It's
Yeah,
that, yeah, you don't call somebody with cancer dirty, so fuck you.
and
Genuinely and honestly, fuck you if you think that a different version of an illness is dirty. Fuck you guys.
but like nobody asked for it. The same way
Yeah.
you wouldn't like make fun of somebody for having cancer. Like nobody's asking to catch something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I always thought that was so strange to me. Like in high school, even I was the one my friends called when they were like slept with a random, having a panic, need to go get tested. I was like, cool, get in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just like it doesn't need to be a big deal unless you make it a big deal, and it's just like looking out for yourselves. Like go get tested regularly. There's free clinics almost everywhere. I don't know, like I know here there is. You could go to your family doctor, you can go to a walk-in clinic, you can go to specifically an STI clinic. Like do whatever way makes you feel comfy. Somebody told me the other day there's like at-home tests you can do that you like mail in. That feels like more work than just going to the clinic.
A little bit.
But like there's plenty of options and it doesn't need to be a big deal. But like we very much operate on like I'd rather know
Mm-hmm.
than
Yeah.
not.
And yeah, and so how we navigate it, as we navigate, especially I navigate new connections more a little more often, but Jill's beginning to find that her stride with everybody. Um, is that like it's a part of the conversation, and it has to be. Is like I don't do no strings attached, physical intimacy that way, and that's a part of the conversation. The conversation immediately flows to, and I also get tested every other month. Like Jill said, adding more people means you're adding their people and whoever they've been with, and that's just common denominator. That's basic sexual education and sexual health. And yeah, so to have that conversation is within the last month there needs to be a negative test, and outside of that, it's if you choose to have the discussion about wrapping up or not, that is between you and your partners. Yeah, so whether you choose or not to have the conversation, like, there's always a conversation going forward about boundaries with protected sex, with wrapped up love, with whatever you want to call it. And it's always a conversation and a boundary between every partner. When I add a new connection in, everyone that I'm connected with knows.
Yeah, and it's not optional. Like we've had a couple people be like, "Well, I got tested then," or "Well, what about that?" It's very much a non-negotiable. Like you either go get tested or you don't. Make
Mm-hmm.
your own decision, but like you're not touching me if you don't want to get tested.
Yeah.
And it's just like it will never be worth it in my brain. Why are we playing the game? Why are we
No.
taking the risk? Like we're all adults. If you want to participate, that's fine.
Pregnancy is hard enough, let alone playing the game of having to navigate illness.
Yeah, like if you, I don't get it. If you want to play the adult games, go do the adult things to play the
I
games.
like that.
It's
I
not
like
like,
that.
yeah,
I think that should be the title of this. If you want to play the adult games, go do the adult things.
yeah, like you don't get to do
Mm-hmm.
both.
I love that bit. I
I
love
don't
that.
be an
No,
adult then if you want to be an
everyone loves
adult.
my one-liners, but that one was top tier fucking mic drop. Yeah, fuck around. Um, yeah, and like I said, this is all communication. No matter what it boils down to, if you want to have the conversation about sexual health, you have to have the conversation. And everybody has to be involved. Like, fuck off with you being shy. Fuck off with you being scared. Or whatever. Like, no, grow the fuck up. It's on your body. You want to put it in somebody else's or have one put in you. Then fucking grow up and have the conversation and stop making it so goddamn hard to be healthy.
That's my thing, is when people are like, well, it's awkward. I'm like,
shut the fuck up. You know what's awkward? Itching your dick 24/7. Having to figure out how not to scratch a lip while you're walking in the fucking mall. Like, are you kidding me? The smells? Y'all don't think there's more awkward shit on the other side of this fucking conversation that you don't want to have because you're 12?
Yeah, and like,
oh my god.
And like, we can say it because we've had to navigate the awkward, but yeah, you're gonna have to have lots of awkward conversations.
Yeah, lots. Like, changing a boundary is an awkward conversation. Whether you're removing it or adding to it, that's an awkward conversation. Adding to your list of curiosities and things to try is an awkward conversation. And hey, like, if I shave my butthole, will you, do the thing that I do to you? That's pretty much how that conversation went. Because, like, even, like, for so many reasons, of course they're awkward, but, like, get over it. Because the orgasm I had 2 weeks later was biblical. I don't anyways, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna, have the uncomfortable conversation.
Something on your mind.
Yeah, I gotta go shave.
I think my nails just came off.
Whatever.
I'll keep them off for you for a couple days.
Yeah, can you at least grind the sharp end down?
Yes, I have to file them.
Cool.
I got you. That's why I don't do it when I have nails on.
I'm always curious about it because I know you motherfuckers touch yourselves when you have nails.
Yeah, it's just I use this part of my finger.
You don't finger yourself?
Yeah, but I use this part of my finger instead of this part of my finger.
So how's that different from me?
Well, I don't know. I'm scared to stab you.
Oh yeah, no shit. Me too.
If I do it to myself,
you have to be able to do it to me.
That's what like, I'll take the injury if I do it to myself.
Just put one nail on me and be like, I'll be back.
That's literally...
Turns out it is doable.
I did, like, when I first ended up on, like, the not straight side of TikTok, I used to laugh because there's lots of gay girls that use press-ons because then you can just rip it off your finger and move on with your life, where if you have actual nails, you ain't ripping that shit off. You gotta, like, cut it and file it, did it, and these ones you can just pull off your finger and move on.
We'll chat on how we manage and navigate sexual health and safety. There's lots of open conversation. Jill and I is one of our biggest, outside of, like, having to navigate tough misunderstandings, is our ability to communicate. Is no matter, like you heard, like, even when she runs away, she'll come back to communicate. Even when I want to pull inward, I will eventually communicate. Like, I know that it's safe to do so here. So Jill and I make it sound easy. Sometimes people get annoyed with us, but it's just because we choose to talk. There's nothing else that we do that benefits us. There's no magic pill. We just know and agree that we would always talk. The two agreements and promises outright we made, where we'll always be in each other's life in some way. It may not be in a relationship this way. It may not be as an anchor partner, but we'll always be here and we will always talk. Like, no matter what.
Yeah. I even think back to, like, early on when we had to navigate an awkward conversation. Like, I called you bawling and my brain was like, you just have to call him. Like, did I want to have the conversation? No. Was my brain, but, like, what was my other option? And, like, once you have the conversation, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. So even if you think it's going to be awkward, even if you think someone's going to get mad, even if you think it's going to be whatever your brain has convinced you it's going to be, once you start the conversation, if they are a safe, healthy person, you will be immediately reassured that it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you have to have the conversations. And, like, so what, I say this to people all the time when we're having conversations, like, I don't know how to ask this without being awkward. I'm like, so ask it awkward. Mm-hmm. Like, I would rather you just say the thing and we can work through it together than, like, think of the perfect way to word it or not say it at all. Like, say it awkward, say it scared, say it nervous. Figure it out together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, guys, go get tested. Have the conversations. It's more fun when you do. It's safer for everyone you do, which makes it more fun when you do. Outside of that, we continue to thank you for the constant support. We love your questions that come in. Please ask more, guys. Like we want you guys to be able to hold these conversations safely. I want to say Merry Christmas to you guys. To the one, yeah,
No.
it's just a hard. I don't like it, Christmas, but like I know that you guys, some of you do. So Merry Christmas
I
to
mean,
you.
you can. I saw a post that was like "Happy Holidays" or whatever is pissing off Republicans these days, and I had a nice giggle. So, I hope, even if it's not Merry Christmas, even if it's not Happy Holidays for you, I hope you get what you need this season. I hope if you're hanging out alone, spending time with yourself, that you find things that bring you joy, make you happy. I hope that if your traditions look different, mine will this year, that you find some joy in creating some new things for yourself. And yeah, make it what you need it to be. As always, if you need a place to rant, talk, cry, scream, yell,
You
we
know where to
got you.
find us.
You can find us at Shifting Lens.
Especially this time of year, guys. Fill our inbox. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you need the space. Please take it up.
Yeah, you can find us at Shifting Lens Podcast on all of the things. You can find me at CoachJill.April.
You can find me at Fight Me on this.
Love you, bye.
Peace.